Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back. Happy President's Day. Hopefully, it has been absolutely outstanding. We have a tremendous live stream planned today. Diving into the Epstein files, we've got a little bit of updates over here. Of course, Pam Bondi dropped an announcement over the weekend saying they're basically done. They got a full list of all the names that have been implicated. They sent that over to Congress. We'll go through it and see what's inside. But the bigger news is who is now resigning. We've got Obama's top White House counsel, his prior lawyer, who is very, very close with Jeffrey, called him Uncle Jeffrey, sent a bunch of emails back and forth. He was buying her all sorts of things, purses and Apple products and all sorts of stuff that we'll unpack here together, see exactly what's going on this thing, and then ask, where are the Republicans in this whole ordeal? Because the Republican Party has been pretty much asleep at the wheel, allowing the Democrats to set the narrative on this thing and define the entire party as the Epstein class. It's a talking point that we're hearing a lot of, and unfortunately, if you don't stand in the zone and do your battle as a Republicans or as the counterparty, then you're going to be defined by your opponents. And we're seeing a lot of that. So we're going to explain what's going on with all of the latest. We've got some new documents, some new emails to go through. And we want to address this with some sobriety because there are emails that are bouncing around and everybody's diving into them saying, oh gosh, there's bodies buried at Zoro Ranch. And you go, look into it. I don't know if that's exactly true. So we'll go through this. We'll see what is going on. Then we'll turn our attention over to Minnesota because in Minnesota, we have a victory in the courts. We were battling over discovery. Of course, as soon as ICE went in there and Kristi Noem and Tom Homan and Greg Bovino, there were lawsuits flying. Keith Ellison, Tim Walz, and the rest of the crew were suing. We're battling over discovery, and they just lost. So a big victory for the DOJ and Homeland that we'll get into. We've also got some other immigration stuff. We want to watch this Restore Britain video because it's just so good. You may have seen it. It's worth a second watch. I've probably watched it twice already, so we'll watch it again. But it's very good because Britain has also had enough of illegal immigration, just like we have. So we'll go through that, see what the latest is, and it's going to be a beautiful stream. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for subscribing. Hopefully you're enjoying the holiday and relaxing and restoring and rejuvenating all the things. It's been a light day. Congress out, pretty quiet over at the White House, but we've got business to attend to here, and we're glad that you're here and joining us. Also, we had a great members only stream this morning. We talked about Reid Hoffman. That segment will be coming out tomorrow morning, but a battle of the billionaires is brewing, and Reid Hoffman is in, I think, big trouble. He's trying to paper over all of his prior activities, but we're not going to let him get away with that. And so, glad you're here. If you want to join up as a member, links are in the description below or on YouTube, Locals, and on Substack. And we'd love to see you back here tomorrow morning for the members only morning stream. But now let's get to it because we've got business to attend to. Starting right now, here it goes. A top Obama lawyer now resigns in disgrace over her connections to Jeffrey Epstein. And what's interesting about this entire reveal is that they don't want to tie it to Obama. You see the article over from the Financial Times saying it's a top Goldman Sachs lawyer, big money firm, lots of money. She's now exiting because she was a little dishonest about what she was doing with Jeffrey Epstein. And in the emails that we're about to look at, she called him Uncle Jeffrey and got pampered with all sorts of stuff from the man, Jeffrey himself. And so here you can see it's all about her being a Goldman Sachs lawyer. We'll go back to this article, but the truth is this was Obama's top lawyer, White House counsel for the Obama administration. They don't really want to talk about it, but the truth is all of these people were working in cahoots. In fact, this woman got an award from John Brennan, the CIA Agency Award. And John Brennan, as we know, was very instrumental in the Russia collusion hoax trying to set up Trump during the first administration. And so what we're seeing here, to me, feels like the Russia collusion hoax version 2.0. Now it's the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. It is filled with Obama people and close proximity to all of the levers of power in their party. But for some reason, the Republican Party has been allowing the Democrats to frame this out against Trump and against all of us, MAGA. You're all part of the Epstein class. We are. If we're not out here talking about these things. Of course, we are talking about these things. We're trying to make sure that these documents are fleshed out appropriately and people like this are held accountable. And so you know what her name is. It is called Kathryn Rumler. She was the White House counsel to Barack Obama. She also worked at Latham and Watkins, and you remember that from the original Russia collusion hoax. Latham and Watkins was the law firm that was facilitating a lot of the representation of guys like Michael Sussman and others when they were charged with crimes for trying to set up the president. And so she joined Goldman Sachs. She left. She resigned because of Epstein. And the story is pretty wild because she was apparently lying about a lot of this. Kathryn Rumler, Kathy, going to be resigning. She told Financial Times that she would exit the group on June 30th. She says, I made the determination that the media attention on me relating to my prior work as a defense attorney was becoming a distraction. Now, there's a lot of this going on. Everybody's just like, no. I wasn't a friend with Epstein. I was just somebody who was his defense lawyer. Okay, so just leave me alone. Or Peter Attia. No, I'm just his doctor. Okay, leave me alone. We know what their relationship was. Or Reid Hoffman. Oh, just talking about some fundraising from MIT. No, you guys were best buddies. Now you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar. And so they're working in overtime. They've got all their friends in the media. They've got all of the Democrat politicians who are now saying this is the pedophile protection party and so on. And we need some defense of this from our side. And so we'll try to assist on that today. But her decision comes after documents showed that she held extensive discussions with Epstein from 2014 all the way to 2019, long after he pleaded guilty in 2008 to the charges of soliciting prostitution from a minor. And again, soliciting, as though it never happened. There was no consummation or actual R. It was just a solicitation. Oh, I would just like to sleep with you, 14-year-old girl. No. He pled guilty to those things, but the truth is, I think from what we saw in the draft indictment, he was highly involved. So Rumler then joined Goldman, and they just said, oh, that's great. You represented in one of the biggest pronounced PDF files on the whole planet. Come work for us. Love to have you. Now, the chief executive CEO, called David Solomon, stood by her for a long time. He said today she will be missed. And throughout her tenure, blah, 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 she's amazing. Now, this is one of the most high-profile corporate downfalls that we've seen. A lot of people resigning, a lot of people trying to distance themselves, get out of the blast zone on this. Brad Karp also stepped down from a U.S. law firm. Paul Weiss, another lib hack law firm, after revelations about his relationship. Paul Weiss, of course, was one of the law firms that was sanctioned by the president for being a Democrat hack law firm, in my opinion. Disclosures from the DOJ show that Rumler had referenced Epstein's Russians in emails about a potential job opportunity before she went over to Goldman. And she forwarded Epstein emails about a romantic relationship that she had with one of her close associates, or his close associates. He gave her gifts, lavishing her with a Hermes bag, Apple products, spa appointments, haircuts, plane tickets. This woman who worked for Obama directly, White House counsel, directly at the White House, said, quote, am totally tricked out by Uncle Jeffrey today. Uncle Jeffrey, that's not, I'm a defense attorney, okay? We don't talk about our clients that way. Am totally tricked out by Uncle Jeffrey today. Jeffrey boots, handbag, and watch. So appreciative. 2019. Rumler had said that she has regretted knowing Epstein. I think you regretted getting caught, okay? Because she probably got her job thanks to Epstein. On Thursday, she said, quote, I made decisions based on the information that was available to me. I have an enormous amount of sympathy and heartache for anyone who he hurt. Recent disclosures show the extent of this, triggering growing frustration with Wall Street and all of the bankers. We also, of course, have JP Morgan, which was his bank, transacting, moving around tens of millions of dollars, probably for trafficking, but other things. Some members of Goldman's board also expressed concerns privately that the bank CEO backing her could destroy their reputation. One person said, it's a distraction and it's embarrassing. It's not the board's job to hire and fire people. That's the CEO's job, and the CEO needed to do it, but he wouldn't do it. Several former Goldman executives who also formed part of the bank's network had also expressed disbelief at the way this was handled. 5 former partners said they were surprised that the CEO stood with her. Several former executives said that they felt deep embarrassment, crushed, and profoundly disappointed. And you can imagine why, because you're hanging out with a real pedophile protector called Kathryn Rumler. Before her association with Epstein became public, Ruemmler had a reputation inside Goldman as a well-liked, tight-lipped, and accomplished lawyer. Yeah, well, she was pretty tight-lipped about Epstein's affairs for a long time. Now, Ruemmler was a former White House counsel in Barack Obama's administration. Among the bank at Goldman, their top executives, senior positions at international reputational risk and conduct committees. She was an attorney at Latham and Watkins, and they characterized her as being a professional person, but now we know the truth. And she joined Obama back in 2009. She was there for a while. Then in 2011, she said, did a bunch of things, and it goes on. You can see a lot of history. Here's a picture of her and Obama. And is that Mike Morell? Oh my gosh, that looks like Mike Morell, maybe CIA. Let's click that. Obama hugs this person. And yeah, so Obama and Ruemmler, big, BFFs. Ruemmler announced that she would be stepping down as White House counsel when she was done with Obama. She returned to private practice. Then Eric Holder announced his intention to step down. And they were thinking about making her the U.S. Attorney General. Then she joined Goldman Sachs, would have a difficult confirmation process because she was a close friend of Obama and was married. And after departing the White House, and while she was once again employed as a partner at Latham and Watkins, she met Epstein on dozens of occasions, 2014 to 19, according to his schedule. He was already convicted. Lunches, dinners, celebrities, apartment hunting, personal beauty appointments, all courtesy of Jeffrey. She was on his schedule for a flight to Paris, also made a stop to the Virgin Islands, but she denied that these trips even existed. Of course, we know these people are just shameless liars. And these people should be a part of the Inquisition. We talked about this previously on Saturday on our members only stream, segment out hopefully soon, if not already. But there are 4 other co-conspirators that are already named in the non-prosecution agreement. Jeffrey Epstein immunized them. We now know that that immunity only extends to Florida. So those 4 co-conspirators that are named, Adriana, Nadia Marcinkova, Leslie Groff, and someone else, they all can be prosecuted outside of Florida, just like Ghislaine Maxwell was. So why don't we start there? Why don't we go after them? And then they can be the ones who tell us to whom these women were trafficked. She can also be a part of that entourage. Ruemmler was also listed as a backup executor to his will, all right? Obama's White House lawyer was in charge of Jeffrey Epstein's will. And they're going to call our party a pedophile protection party. A disclosure from Congress showed on September 8th, she maintained an email correspondence soliciting his advice for job offers. She may have been installed in Goldman because he was one of hers, and sharing chummy musings about ordinary Americans, the rest of us peasants who don't know better. Ruemmler called Epstein wonderful Jeffrey, called him sweetie, called him Uncle Jeffrey, said, I adore him in a 2015 email exchange that shows Epstein booking and paying for her first-class trip to Europe. In another back and forth, Ruemmler also expressed gratitude for her friendship, and she ended her emails with XO and XOXO. Other emails show that she was asking Epstein to get her a job at Facebook and was also giving him advice on how to deal with his solicitation crimes. And yeah, some of that might be defense attorney work. Yeah, okay, well, you got charged with crimes here. Although I don't think she helped facilitate that deal at all since she came upon him after the fact. So was she hired as an actual defense attorney in any way, shape, or form? I doubt it. She also conveyed to Epstein she was romantically involved with a married associate of Jeffrey, so she's a cheater too, and then resigned from Goldman Sachs on February 12th after her Epstein connections were later disclosed. And so all of this is from the Obama people. Latham and Watkins. We saw Paul Weiss, Goldman Sachs. These are leftist organizations by and large. And she was embedded in it. Now they're going to turn around and blame us with stupid phrases like this. Shout out to our friend Maze at Maze Moore. Awesome person to follow. Reposting this so you can grab it at the top of the timeline. But he put this together. The Epstein class, Media Matters approved talking point. They're all saying the same things. And if they get to say this every day and it's on the media, I got to tell you, my friends, I'm watching it. I'm prepping for the show. I'm checking out other channels on YouTube to see what they're saying. I'm checking out all of the media to assemble a segment for this. They are in overdrive. They are in hyperdrive. And of course, nobody wants to be accused of being a pedophile protector or a panikin. But what they're doing with this is turning it into Russia collusion 2.0, or really even worse than that, which is the new January 6th. And if the Democrats get back in charge and they are able to form their fake select committees again, they're going to unleash hell on this. Why? Because they're implicated. Because it's Obama's White House counsel. It's Reid Hoffman's, the billionaire funder of E. Jean Carroll. They're all over the place. Bill Clinton swimming around in swimming pools. So they have no choice. This is do or die for them, and they're unleashing hell. So we have to, as the opposite party, make sure we're pushing back on this when we can. Here is this montage.
The Epstein class notion resonates. Bad people did bad things, and that the Trump administration are letting them get away with it. And more importantly, they're not just letting them get away with it, they're actively participating in the cover-up.
What a lot of my colleagues are calling the Epstein class.
This is the Epstein class ruling our country.
The Epstein class who is running this government.
The Epstein class are rigging the rules, protecting themselves, while ordinary people in America are getting shafted.
He's still in with the Epstein class. This is the Epstein administration.
This is what they do. They get in their little group chats, they get their talking points, and because they're too dumb to come up with their own language and their own policies or their own clever phrases, they then just regurgitate them out of their mouths. And they're doing it constantly. It's all day, 24/7, never ending. So how do we shift the narrative? What do we do? Maybe we need indictments of the 4 people I've already articulated. But as this goes on, our friend Svetlana Lakova, who does great deep dives over on X, she's been poking around on the Rumler files. She says, this is one of the biggest scandals the media is hiding from you. Obama's top lawyer, called Kathy Rumler, was also Epstein's lawyer and had a long affair with his personal lawyer. She defended Epstein even after he was convicted, and he was one of the executors of his estate. Rumler consulted Epstein on everything, including Obama. Obama was going to offer her the AG position. Now, Rumler didn't want to leave her luxury New York City apartment to move to DC. It's expensive. Epstein was trying to find someone to pay for her apartment. Now, ultimately, she did go to private practice over at Latham & Watkins, where her speciality was getting her clients like the Rothschilds, provided by Epstein, deals with the Obama DOJ, and also getting a cut of it for herself. All of these photographs, you can see she's right in it. That's Epstein's person. And Epstein had little agents all over the place. He was texting with Stacey Plaskett in Congress. Stop smacking your lips. Are you chewing? She's like, no, I'm not. Not anymore. Don't take me out of Congress. Okay, like a scared little puppet as well. So there's Rumler all over the place in the Oval Office as a liaison to Epstein. She was White House counsel at the time, and she was talking to him about Obama. Here's an email. Jeffrey Epstein wrote, you need to talk to the boss, who was the boss in 2014. Oh yeah, Barack Obama. Understood. They're talking about this. Doesn't look like you were prioritizing your schedule very effectively, said Kathy Rumler. How are you going to manage all of that? This is UGA week, so the boss will be in town. That's Obama. She's talking to Epstein about Obama, and she's Obama's White House counsel. I'll be here all week. You may get sick of me. Just sat down on the train so I can't talk freely. More emails. Agreed, but I need to be prepared to say yes before I talk to him. Understood, said Jeffrey. He responds. It comes down to high risk, high reward, low risk and reward, professional, emotional, and financial. And the truth is, Obama just wanted money, really. They had him pinned. More from Svetlana. She says that Epstein was talking about Reid, the lawyer, not Reid Hoffman, saying Obama just wants to make money. So Epstein's to Jeffrey to Joe Ito said, when I told Reid that Obama just wanted to make money, he thought I was being cynical. No, Obama just wants money. That's why he went and signed deals with Netflix and all the things. As he was sure that he was doing what good was going to be the goal of Obama. And then, of course, Obama sold out our country in order to make that money. Now, the war economy over on X put together a beautiful thread explaining more of their connections, saying Steve Bannon, who has now responded to some of this, said Bannon emailed Epstein back in 2018. Trump's in the White House at the time. with an article for Lawyer for Susan Rice. Obama administration is justifiably concerned about sharing intel with the Trump team. Here's some more messages. Here's the headline, Lawyer for Susan Rice. Obama administration is justifiably concerned about sharing intel with the Trump team. Don't want to tell them anything. Do you know why? Probably because they were setting him up. Epstein shared this one. From Jeffrey to Steve Bannon. I spent 2 hours on the conference with her yesterday. The Flynn focus was clever. Also now trying to incriminate Flynn and create the Russian collusion hoax, which we saw and covered a lot here. Another message. Do you think Bill Clinton would join me with Ehud Barak and Steve? Could be very funny, all off the record. Again, from Jeffrey back in 2018, going to Kathy Rumler. Another one. And remember that Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter, who was the prosecutor for the Ghislaine Maxwell trial, who then mopped the whole thing up, part of the cleanup crew. She brought in a trial, brought in evidence, brought in 4 victims, no financial crimes, no third-party traffickers. Epstein was dead. Maxwell was going to be the little bow on the whole thing. Convict her, get her out of the place so that we stop looking at this. We cannot continue to look at this because they're setting up all sorts of operations to ensnare their political opponents. Here's one from Nicholas Reeby to Jeffrey Epstein saying Comey's testimony next Thursday will say that Trump asked him to drop the investigation of Flynn. Okay. So in other words, Trump is putting pressure on the FBI director in order to drop an investigation that would be harmful against Trump, which obviously you could say, well, maybe that's improper. Maybe that's impeachable. How can the president be putting pressure to quash an investigation that's harmful to him? So again, Comey, who's, in my opinion, a very dishonest, lying person, the actual James Comey, is now releasing his testimony to Jeffrey Epstein, and Nicholas Rebus is sending that testimony to Jeffrey Epstein. James Comey, the FBI director, is going to go in and implicate Trump, which is what happened, and is still trying to implicate Trump. So Jeffrey seemingly is getting information that's harmful to Trump. They're not on the same side. They're on opposite sides. These are people who are trying to take Trump out, not prop him up. And the media is ignoring all of it. They're just turning around and saying, oh, Trump's a Epstein class. Here's another one from Kathy Rumler, Obama's lawyer, over to Epstein back in 2018. Do you think Bill Clinton would like to join us? Well, he might like to. His lawyer would advise him against it, says Kathy Rumler. Are you feeling better today, Jeffrey? Would you like me to bring you some soup and some crackers? His lawyer, Obama's lawyer, would advise him against it, or whomever she's representing at the time. Now, another one to Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff, a leftist hack lawyer who's made it his entire career to go after Trump. Why? Because they know that if Trump is releasing these materials, Trump wrecks their entire operation. He can go and prosecute them. And I hope he does at some point if there's evidence of a crime. But here's a conversation back and forth. Michael Wolff, the hack author, says the description of the allegations in the indictment as it stands now probably tracks the documents closely, and it's too long anyways, so I'll compress this in other language, but I've tried to reframe it. Now then, Epstein is cajoling them, saying too obvious. Okay, that strategy is too obvious if we're going to set this up. But this week, the Inspector General report might come out and add flavor. I might say that the White House is concerned that an indictment has been prepared. They are worried that pardoning Flynn would be an obstruction charge. So Epstein is colluding with Michael Wolff to wreck the first administration. If Trump pardons Flynn, in the prior email, Flynn is now basically being fingered by these people. Comey is going to say Trump tried to put the pardon or quash the investigation of Flynn. Now pardoning Flynn would then be obstruction. So they're worried about an indictment, and Epstein is exacerbating it. He's saying, how can we box them in? It's like a game of chess. He's working against the Trump administration and Trump. It appears that Giuliani has knowledge of it and is forcing this issue. The White House is concerned that Comey airing Flynn was instructed to lie, and that pardoning cannot be done for a corrupt purpose, might hinder their moves. Question. Talk later. So all of these people are on the same team. Here it continues. I think Flynn pleads today from Jeffrey Epstein to Michael Wolff. Michael Flynn pleads guilty. This made up a lot of the Russia collusion hoax back during the first term. And another one from Richard Kahn, another one to Jeffrey. U.S. stocks fall after ABC report that Michael Flynn will testify against Trump. Trump's going to get taken out because they're flipping these people against him. Another one from this organization called HBRK, Richard Kahn and Associates, says should be interesting as the plot continues. Now, another summary of some news articles. Jeffrey E. to Tom Barack. Well done letter. Flynn attorney's letter to the Senate Intel Committee. Okay, it's all just one big operation. And the war economy covers it all. And you can see email entitled, well done. Rumler comes back. July 10th, 2018. Here's a story from, looks like Wall Street Journal. Mike Flynn's lawyers say he is no longer joining a consulting firm. And they say, this is a clown show. Where are you, Wall Street Journal? It's a clown show. Okay, so they're working in an operation against Trump's people who were there during the first term. All one gigantic scam. And it just continues. Now, Hillary was also in these emails. You can see Jeffrey Epstein sends an email to Oliver Colum. Email says something like this in French. Something about the Rothschilds, blah, blah, blah. You can see it. It's in French. Let's have a meeting and whatever. Saying, could you also organize a discreet meeting between Sarko and Hillary Clinton in New York? This is back in 2013 before Trump came in. If not, who should we ask? Someone said meetings with Hillary are not easily discreet. You know, she's maybe the Secretary of State at the time. Can you meet and connect us with them? Hillary, Obama, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, the list goes on and on. They're all in the files. It continues. You can see Anna Paulina Luna is pretty sick of this. Says, I honestly don't give a crap if the Epstein prosecutors were Democrats or Republican, okay? All of our justice system failed these victims, and it goes all the way back to Bush and the Bush administration that gave these files and co-conspirators plea deals, like the 2007-2008 non-prosecution agreement that named 4 co-conspirators, which we've talked about. And multiple administrations and attorney generals after that knew about it and they did nothing. Make no mistake, Democrats knew about this too and they still did nothing. But now they sense blood in the water. They think, oh, Pam Bondi is screwing this up, and so we can exploit this for our political gain, just like they did during the last administration. They just made it up. Russia collusion. Make no mistake, Democrats knew about this. And even some of Obama's top advisors have now resigned in disgrace. I am truly disgusted. This is a massive problem. It involves both parties. You all need to see that. I am looking forward to working with the current DOJ to help uncover more of this. From Anna Paulina Luna. But what we've got out of the DOJ that came down over the weekend, February 14th on Valentine's Day, the day it's supposed to be filled with love, turns out it's not. Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche sent this memo out. It's got a bunch of names on here, and this one went out over to the Senate committees. And of course, the Senate was responsible for helping to pass the Epstein Files Transparency Act, and of course, the House of Representatives as well. So everyone's getting this. Chuck Grassley, Jim Jordan, Jamie Raskin, and Dick Durbin. And the Democrats are not going to let this go because it's existential for them. If they don't make this about Trump and the Republican Party, then it's going to be about them. And they cannot allow that to happen. Section 3 of this act, this is from Todd Blanche, requires the DOJ, within 15 days of completing the release that's required under the law, to submit to you guys a report. We're supposed to tell you all categories of records released and withheld, a summary of the redactions made and the legal basis, a list of all government officials and politically exposed persons named in the documents. That's what we're doing. They write. In accordance with the act, and as described in various submissions to the courts, we've read most of those here, the department released all records and all materials in our possession. Okay, we've got everything and it's now out. And a lot of people say that's not true at all. There's a lot of stuff that's still left in there and a bunch of other people who couldn't be prosecuted. They tell us these are the categories. Jeffrey Epstein, including all investigations, prosecutions, and custodial matters, were in one category that has now been released. Maxwell, second category. Third category, flight logs or travel records, manifest, vehicles, and more. 4, individuals including government officials, people connected to his criminal activities, civil settlements, investigatory proceedings. 5, entities, corporate, governmental, anybody with known ties to his financial networks. Also, how have people not been prosecuted for financial crimes? You know, there's this thing called insider trading. Is there any evidence that that occurred? What's her name? Martha Stewart. She went to prison for that. For like a stock tip. This is billions of dollars being transacted. Nobody went to jail. Any immunity deals, non-prosecution agreements, and plea bargains, which we've seen, including the draft indictment that had additional people in the draft indictment from 2007 and 8 that never got charged because he took the plea deal. They listed co-conspirators. They listed co-defendants in there. Who are those women? Probably Leslie Groff, probably Nadia Marcinkova are in there somewhere because they were facilitating the trafficking. Now, they can turn around and claim to be victims. That's fine. If they want to spill their guts about everything that they did and name every single person who they were helping to traffic people to, cut them a good plea deal. That's fine. Go after the men who actually did the abuse. Fine with that, but you got to start somewhere. And they have already been named in the documents. Alexander Acosta was already going to prosecute them until they worked out the plea deal. Any immunity deals, non-prosecution agreements, and other bargains, internal DOJ communications, including emails, memos, meeting notes, and more, all communications and memoranda, all electronic files, and any documentation about his death and more. We've withheld a couple things, though. The only category of records withheld were those records where permitted withholdings under the law allowed us to do that, and where other materials were not segregable from the main. Now, as discussed in another letter and letters to you, we've explained how we withheld these things, either deliberative process privilege. All right. So like the lawyers are deliberating about what to do. They write notes and memos. Well, we're thinking about prosecuting here, thinking about doing this. And so we're not going to detail and release to you our deliberations. Work product privilege and attorney-client privilege. These are all, again, things that are pretty standard in the law. Attorney-client privilege, we're all familiar with. Work product privilege. This is our work, not yours. I don't have to disclose it to you. No records, they say, were withheld or redacted on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, including anybody to government officials or foreign dignitaries. Now, consistent with the act and in consultation with victims, we have identified portions that contain personal information, medical files, things that could be an unwarranted invasion of privacy. We saw Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie come out and implicate innocent men because they're racing to just go make a point and get some retweets on their X accounts. Anything that depicts CSAM material, of course, we don't want to see that, would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution, which to our knowledge, there isn't one. If they could come out and say that there was one, that I think maybe might change some minds. As far as we know, that's not happening. And anything that contains images of death, physical abuse, or injury of any person also being redacted. Now, although permitted by the act, we could do this. We didn't. No materials were redacted or withheld on that basis. That record contained information specifically authorized under executive order in order to be kept secret under a national defense basis. If it's classified, we could have withheld it, but we didn't. Not on that basis. And as described in detail in prior filings to the courts, we undertook an extensive process to redact names and victim information. They did. And we've, kind of half joked about this, that if you're in the DOJ's position and you get this order from Congress to say you have 30 days to release everything, you're basically outmaneuvered at that moment. If I'm Pam Bondi, I'm there and go, crap. We're outmaneuvered. Whatever we release, no one's going to be happy with. On the one side, you can release everything. Our joke was just load up a big dump truck, dump all of the files right on the steps of Congress, and then they can go through them and they can have a heyday with it. They want to redact it, that's fine. Thomas Massie wants to go through 3 million pages, 6 million pages, and redact things, go for it. It can just be a free-for-all. Downside of that is you're releasing CSAM. You're releasing victim names. You're releasing personal identifiable information. But if you're at the DOJ, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to reorient your entire office to now go comb through these files. And once you do comb through the files and redact them and then release them, they're still going to be mad at you. how dare you redact all these things? Well, you told us to. You don't redact it, then they scream at you. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So that's why part of me was just saying one giant dump truck right on Thomas Massey's front lawn. Then he can deal with it, because right now they're using this as a cudgel against the DOJ. But of course that didn't happen. Probably a good reason why I'm not the AG, but Pam Bondi and the rest of the DOJ said, we have to do the moral thing. We're going to try to protect the victims, do our best. We know we're going to get beaten up over this, but what else can we do? So they redact things, and then of course they get beaten over the head with it. So the engagement is ongoing. The department remains steadfast. We're going to try to protect the victims, and many of the victims, again, will never be satisfied. Many of the victims were overage at the time that they were engaging in the facilitation of the trafficking. Many of the victims are not actually victims. They were co-conspirators that were already named in the draft indictment and in the non-prosecution agreement, and their names are being redacted as though they are victims. How can they be victims if Alexander Acosta and the other U.S. attorney were working to indict them? They're not. So the department notes here that unredacted versions of these are available for members of Congress. They've all gone in there and looked at them. And I have not seen a single congressperson come together with a strategy like we have here. At least we have a strategy. Go indict the 4 named co-conspirators in the non-prosecution agreement. Ghislaine Maxwell's immunity didn't apply outside of Florida. Charge them in New York, where they were. Charge them at Zoro Ranch in New Mexico, where they were. There's no statute of limitations problem. New crimes against children. Biden signed an extension of this. It's called the Adam Walsh, something. Sex Crimes Act against children. Basically, there is no statute of limitations for dangerous crimes against children, DCACs. You can prosecute people for those, and you don't, 10 years went by. Sorry, can't do that anymore. So no immunity for them, no statute of limitations problems. We got 4 names that we've got. Where are the Congress people with their names? Who do you think should be prosecuted and why? For what crimes? We already have a draft indictment that is plenty. So Pam Bondi can pick that up and run with it. And Pam Bondi can then use that as justification as to discovering new information. Remember, the Supreme Court also rejected Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal. From our read, immunity should have applied to her outside Florida. Supreme Court said no. Great. That was in 2025, October. Now that's new information. Pam Bondi can say, Supreme Court said there is no immunity. We can go after all of these people. Now, as discussed above, the department redacted a limited amount of information covering various privileges, including deliberative, work product, and attorney-client privilege as well. The legal basis for these redactions and withholdings are long recognized based in common law. Yes, they are very common. This is what we talk about these all the time. But below is a list of the government officials and the PEPs, the politically exposed persons, named or referenced in the materials. The term PEP was not defined in the act, but we'll look to it, and we're going to say that it's all government officials and politically exposed persons named or referenced in any document. This list includes, as directed by the act, all persons where 1, they are or were a government official or a PEP, and 2, their name appears in the files released under the act at least once. Names appear in the files under a variety of contexts. For example, some people had direct email contact with Epstein. Others are mentioned only in a portion of the document, including press reporting that on its face is unrelated to the Epstein and Maxwell matters. The list is huge. Look at the size of this thing. And that's just scratching the surface. Who do we got? Alexander Acosta was the prosecutor. Gloria Allred. Julian Assange is in there. Steve Bannon's in there. Xavier Becerra. Look at this. Every one of these is a huge name. Beyonce? Hunter Biden, of course. Leon Black. Anthony Blinken, Joe Biden's Secretary of State. Pam Bondi's in there. John Brennan, CIA Director. George Bush. Cher. Bill Clinton. George Clooney. Bill Cosby. That figures. Alan Dershowitz. Rahm Emanuel from Chicago. Michael Flynn. Bill Gates. It goes on and on. You can see the list. If we read every name, we'll be here all day. Ehud Barak, Jeff Bezos is there. Tony Blair, UK. Dan Bongino's there. We've got Jeb Bush, Guac Bull Jeb. Kurt Cobain from Nirvana. Man, that smells like Teen Spirit. And apparently, there's a new report that he was not a suicide. Somebody was saying that he may have been killed. Jay-Z's in there. Michael Jackson, who for some reason, is on the list. Reid Hoffman, of course, Mike Huckabee, Pramila Jayapal for some reason, James Comey, Michael Cohen, the convicted perjurer, Hillary Clinton's on the list. The list goes on and on. Tucker Carlson's on there, George Bush. We've got Bono, John Bolton, Woody Allen, and the list goes on and on. Barack Obama, Rosie O'Donnell's in there. Yeah. Mike Pompeo, Karl Rove, Marco Rubio, everybody. They put Trump's name in there, Donald Trump, Chris Tucker, Stanley Woodward is a lawyer. I think the same guy who's now at the U.S. Attorney's Office. J.D. Vance is in there, Ivanka Trump, Peter Thiel, Jeff Zucker, Mark Zuckerberg. The list goes on and on. Even Melania is in there. And so, okay, is this the Epstein list that we've all been waiting for? I don't think so. Not all these people are going to be indicted. So it's just kind of a big index. John McCain, Ghislaine Maxwell, Monica Lewinsky, Mitt Romney's on the list, Rod Rosenstein, Kevin Spacey, Kenneth Starr, the list goes on and on. All right, so you get the gist of it. Now, that's been released, and what everybody's kind of interpreting this to be is that it's the end of the Inquisition and that nobody will be prosecuted. They have a little bit of a statement here, like some things were reserved because we may consider ongoing prosecutions right here, would jeopardize an ongoing prosecution, but we haven't seen anything. Now, there's a bunch of, in the finance department, you might call it FUD, F-U-D, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's when everybody's just freaking out, kind of in a mass hysteria, and not thinking rationally in many ways. And I have an example of what I think is an example of that. This email is capturing a lot of attention out there. And unfortunately, stuff like this gets exploited. People say, look at this evidence. It's disgusting. This means Trump is covering up for people who literally strangled people and they're dead and buried somewhere, which they very well could be. I don't know. This email flying around X right now saying November 21, 2019, somebody sends an email from Proton Mail. This goes over to somebody else called Eddie Aragon. We'll explain who Eddie is in a minute. Confidential memo sent from my iPhone from Eddie to somebody. Okay, so this email comes in from somebody to me address. Subject confidential from Jeffrey Epstein. Proton Mail. Some people think it's a throwaway email or it's a secure email system, probably a CIA honeypot or something. But they create an email, can't backtrace it to anybody. They send it out. Then he forwards it to somebody else. Eddie forwards it. This is an email from an unnamed source, unnamed person. It says, Eddie, this is sensitive. So it will be the first and last email depending on your discretion. You can choose to take it or you can trash it. But this comes from a person that has been there and seen it all as a former staff at Zoro, which is the place in New Mexico. The material below that I'm linking was taken from Jeffrey Epstein's home as my insurance in case of future litigation against Epstein. Sorry, no questions. Don't ask. What is damning about Jeffrey Epstein is yet to be written. Did you know somewhere in the hills outside the Zoro in New Mexico, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madam G? Buried. Both died by strangulation during intercourse. Rough, Here are the video footage linked. Link 1, 13 minutes, 57 seconds. Intercourse with a minor. Link 2, threesome video. Link 3, same thing. Link 4, underage girl, intercourse. Link 5, underage girl, it's called the Matthew Mellon video. Another one, underage girl, which is a fantasy video. And then another one, a suicide attempt confession to Madam G and audio. Now, he sends this out to this person called Eddie Aragon. We'll explain who that is in a minute. Question is, please arrange for 1 Bitcoin by 6 p.m. to be sent to me, basically blackmail. Send it to my Bitcoin wallet or I'm going to release this info and you're going to be totally screwed. The USB will be sent anonymously to your attention by overnight courier upon receipt of the funds. You have my assurance. This is exclusive, never shared before. All right. No attorneys, no samples, no questions, please. Confirm ASAP. So this guy, Eddie, goes, oh man, what? Who is Eddie? And this email is going around right now. And everybody is saying, How can the Pam Bondi DOJ be covering this up? I mean, there's dead girls buried in the hills of New Mexico, right? Here's what we see. And by the way, Bitcoin back then in 2019 was like $8,000, I do believe. Somebody wrote about that on X. But here is the rest of the story about what ultimately happened. So Eddie Aragon is a radio host, and he's been investigating the Epstein files for a long time. And so he gets an email. He takes it right to the FBI. Now, for some reason, they then come out in 2021 and they release a report on it. But they say, all right, here's the deal. We are opening up or importing an investigation. There's an email about information for sale. Okay, somebody's emailing this radio show host and saying, I know you're covering Epstein. If you want this stuff, pay me $8,000. I got all the videos. Here's what it looks like. On 11/25/2019, so he went in like the next day. The day Eddie gets the email, and out of context, this email is horrific, right? But he's a radio show host now that we know. He goes in the very day to the FBI. He says, hey, FBI, I'm Eddie Aragon. Here's all my info. He came into Albuquerque and the office there to report an email that he received offering 7 videos of abuse and the location of 2 foreign girls buried in Zoro Ranch. Then on 11/21, or he explains, on 11/21, he got an email from this person at protonmail.com about these 7 videos of abuse and the location of the burial, saying that this info is for sale if you give me 1 Bitcoin. Now, the email had a valid wallet, which they put the address right here, for the funds. The email also had a deadline of the following day. The author says that the information was insurance against future litigation against Epstein. Now, Aragon, who is the radio show host, he believes the email could be valid since he uses his full first name and thinks that he's a listener to his radio show. Aragon owns a radio show called Rock of Talk, where he has conducted his own extensive investigation into the Epstein Ranch and has obtained significant information about it. Now, Aragon has been published in other news outlets about his investigation. He also consulted with other members of the media regarding the email, and the consensus was it may be real and that he should report it. And that's what we got. Now, we don't know where it went after that, but presumably the FBI investigated it, and I don't know if that was paid or not. So I can actually see this either way. Maybe it's real. Maybe this person had some real information and they just kind of covered it up. He reports it to the FBI, or did he pay off the Bitcoin and get the video files, or are those somewhere, or is this just a scammer? Right? We don't really know. I think that's part of the problem here is we want to get to the bottom of these things, but with additional context and with additional investigation, maybe you find, oh, it's just a crazy person. And there's a bunch of FUD and, kind of misdirection in these files where one document says something. We even saw that there was a video release of Epstein hanging himself in his jail cell. It wasn't real. It was a 4chan post that somebody sent in, right? Crazy people send letters all the time and send messages. Whether it's real or not, who knows? But of course, the point is maybe we should just go search around Zoro and figure that out, or check that wallet, get that unredacted wallet and see if we can backtrace who that is or whether any money was transferred into that wallet since it's all on the public blockchain. So, this is the problem. If you can't have answers on it, then emails like this, which say that there are bodies buried in Zoro Ranch, can't be validated. Can we get an answer on that? Did the FBI look into this and go do a search or figure out who this person was? We don't know. But he's a talk show host, right? He's not anybody who you would expect would basically be blackmailed. He's trying to purchase videos, and maybe these things exist. We don't know. If they do exist, this is horrific. There's dead bodies in Zoro Ranch. If it doesn't exist, and this is a scammer who's trying to make a Bitcoin, then this is being spread around to try to be something that it isn't. And the Trump administration is being blamed for covering this stuff up, even though it's questionable. So it's all over the place, and we need to look at it with a critical eye, is my point. I don't know exactly what happened. I don't think anybody does, which is part of the concern. If you can't define what's happening, then everything else will fill the gap, and people will use their own minds to come to their own conclusions. So this is why the DOJ needs to get a handle on this, because these emails spreading around are disgusting and horrific. So we need explanations like rapid response. Nope, we looked into this. That email spreading on X, they say there's bodies buried. we got this document, but the files are all spread out all over the place, so you can't really connect the dots. So help us clarify, please, so that we don't have to fill in the gaps in our brains. Now, with all of the allegations about pedophile protection and more, we still have major news organizations like ABC who have a vested interest in digging into these files and getting a big scoop, taking out the president. Remember Dan Rather? He's like, I got Bush's fake document. Blasted it all over the place, thrilled that they were going to take out a president. If there's anything that would do that, you would imagine ABC News would have a pretty good idea, or their lawyers at least would not be so careful as to make them read these statements after Thomas Massie comes out and says something like this.
He's still in with the Epstein class. This is the Epstein administration, and they're attacking me for trying to get these files released.
And again, I'm going to say President Trump has not been accused of anything criminal here. Thank you very much.
He's still
Massie. What? Yeah, that kind of wrecks their argument. ABC and NBC and MS Now and Fox News and all these people, I'm sure they've got teams of lawyers combing through these files to try to get the scoop. And their lawyers are telling their anchors, there is no there. So Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna and everybody coming out saying that Trump is the epicenter of all of this are now being corrected on the record in their guest appearances over on ABC News. Same thing's happening with Tom Emmer. He's saying if there's a crime, we should be investigating it. Here's what he had to say.
So your Republican colleague, as you know, Thomas Massie, yesterday he called the Epstein administration, he called the Trump administration, the Epstein administration, as a senior member of the House. I mean, are you urging there to be more investigations into people whose names were protected in those redactions?
Well, I don't know exactly where Thomas is going with this. I know that there's a personal issue that Thomas and the president have. But what I would say is, well, they have some differences. What I would say on the Epstein issue with Thomas, if he's got something specific, then absolutely bring it to the DOJ. And it would be Thomas or anyone else. If there is a crime that they believe is not being investigated properly, bring it to the DOJ. And I have no doubt in my mind that they will take it up.
All right, we've got about a minute left. Let me just ask you two.
Yeah, but they're not doing that. They're all just coming out and talking in platitudes. Just saying things like you're protecting pedophiles and don't you want all of the files released and unredact everything? Okay, you unredact it, then innocent people get reamed on the floor of the House because Ro Khanna's trying to immunize himself against any defamation lawsuit. So he goes, protects himself, reads inappropriate names out there, and then blames Trump for that. How dare you redact the names? Now unredact the names, then redact them again. And the list goes on and on. Now, there was an interesting post over here from Reddit, and somebody's doing some analysis on this, and here's what it looks like, talking about a volume, a canyon of documents. And I don't know how accurate this is, but this person has done some analysis. A lot of people kind of poking around creating Jmail for like Jeffrey Epstein's Gmail account. There's also JTube, I think, which is like a Jeffrey Epstein YouTube channel with all of the videos that looks like a YouTube page. Someone on Reddit posted this, the Epstein Files 2001 Canyon, and they've done a forensic volume audit, and apparently we're missing a bunch of files with dates from 1999 to 2001. What happened during that time? 9/11. The dataset 9 manifest shows a hard break in serial sequencing at this file, EFTA, which is how the files are referenced. The missing tranches overlap with key geopolitical events and anomalous market activity. As of February 26, 50% of the total identified Epstein evidence remains withheld for reasons of national security or deliberative process privilege. And you can see just the amount of documents by year. 95, we've got these documents up by 2005, a much higher volume of materials just sorted by date. But from 1999 to 2001, where are the files? Don't really know. If the planes were grounded by the FAA, why are the emails regarding that grounding also classified? Here's the OP, the original poster. Here's how he did it. I'm going to post the results from Gemini when prompted. As a forensic data auditor specialized in the Epstein Files Act, I have completed a cross-data set reconciliation of the public-facing repository against the DOJ's report to Congress. The audit does confirm that there is a 1999 to 2001 canyon. It's a verified forensic reality. It's manifesting as a systematic removal of chronological data despite the technical capability to render the files. My audit of the master index file reveals a non-sequential jump from these files. 1998, then Jan 2002, exactly 25,000 placeholders are missing. These are not merely unrendered files. The serial numbering logic suggests that these were indexed during the initial intake, but were then purged prior to the public release. So the numbering just continues on, but the files aren't quite there. A hard break occurs in the financial ledger and the sequence involving the Southern District of New York and the Deutsche Bank production. The sequence proceeds normally, goes from 05 all the way up to 1998. Then we drop off. Then the next available page comes out January 2002. This fracture removes 3 years of transactional data. And given that this era aligns with his most complex offshore vehicles, the lack of a corrupted file error message suggests that this was an intentional administrative exclusion rather than a technical failure. Data sets just missing a ton of evidence, page discrepancies, and you can see people are going through this. So I don't think that this is going to just go away so easily. But I mentioned that we now are hearing from Steve Bannon and his crew, and our friends over at the National Pulse are explaining why his name is in the files so much. They say, courtesy of Jack Montgomery. He said, Bannon issues a statement on the Epstein chat logs and is committing to release a film later this year. Of course, we know Bannon has addressed his appearance in the upcoming release of the documentary now. Here's what the report says. Bannon has addressed the appearance of this, perhaps on his show. We know he exchanged many texts with Epstein in the months before his death, but his explanation was, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a TV host, I've got decades of experience in interviewing controversial figures. That's the only lens through which these private communications should be viewed. He said, I tried to work over a long period of time to get 50 hours of interviews, and we're going to release this in 2026. We saw him doing an interview with Epstein. Bizarre. It's going to destroy the very myths that Epstein created. Documentarians spent a lot of time doing this, and he says that's all this was about. He said, I was trying to ingratiate himself with the documentary. For a long time, has been demanding the release. Strong supporter of President Trump, went to jail for President Trump. And that's going to be the explanation. So we'll see what comes out in the aftermath of that. But as it stands, right, we have a few people who are even talking about this, Tom Emmer and others, and we've asked for police reports. We've asked for victims to make their case. If they think that there is evidence of a crime that has not been released or is not being prosecuted, why don't they just go make a report and say, oh, you forgot this guy. He trafficked me. Who is it? Instead, they just want the DOJ to just read their minds. And every criminal case has, that's an R like this, has a victim that can testify generally. And they exist. So why are they not testifying? So the whole thing is now being captured by the left. It's a shame to see it, because I think a lot of innocent people are being punished, and this narrative is allowed to take hold, the Epstein class. And so the Republicans, if they want to ever win again, they need to push back on this, because nobody's going to accept a party of pedophile protectors. And if they allow the Democrats to continue to define them accordingly, not only are the midterms going to go away, but the entire party might go away. And I don't think that's being a panic-in, because I think that the Democrats, as soon as they gain power, if they seize the House, we're going to have fake select committees just like January 6th. We had two fake impeachments, the January 6th fake impeachment and the Russia collusion hoax fake impeachment. And now they can just turn around and say, you had an official act of Congress that ordered you to release these things, and now you're still covering it up. They're going to say that that's a direct obstruction of justice. It's a violation of the law, and they're going to prosecute them if they can. Because if they don't, then it's going to be an existential problem for them, because they're all over the files. So hopefully Pam Bondi is listening. Todd Blanche is listening. The narrative is shifting away from them. Kash Patel can come out every day and talk about all of the current pedophiles that he's arrested. That's tremendous news. That's great news. Biden also lost like 300, 400,000 kids. How about they talk about that too? But they need to recapture this, and we have a strategy for it. Start with the co-conspirators who are already listed in the indictment. Use them, indict them, get leverage from them against the other Johns to whom these people were being trafficked, and make this about the truth. Make this about people like Kathryn Rumler, who were calling him Uncle Jeffrey, like Reid Hoffman, who was sending emails thousands of times, 1,700 times, and then turns around and says he's a big purveyor of protecting victims. We know these people are involved in it. The Republican Party better get on board or they're going to get wiped out. So we're going to keep our eye on this. Thanks for joining and subscribing as we do. All right. We're not done yet. We got some other business to attend to. And so let's get right to it and see what else is cooking in immigration land. Big victory in Minnesota. They tried to sue Homeland and say, give us all your evidence so that we can prosecute you and kick you out of our state. But now they've lost. And this is interesting in the juxtaposition of the Democrats reversing their illegal immigration positions. We now have two examples of the Democrats trying to moderate. They're going to try to pull the Abigail Spanberger routine and pretend that they're not people who invaded our country to secure their political power indefinitely. Hillary was out over the weekend and Obama was out over the weekend saying, you know, illegal immigration is a problem. And they're doing this because they know that the polls and that the American people are sick of this. And here is what Hillary had to say.
I think we need to call it for what it is.
Secretary
There
Clinton.
is a legitimate reason to have a debate about things like migration. It went too far. It's been disruptive and destabilizing, and it needs to be fixed in a humane way with secure borders that don't torture and kill people.
What? That's what we've said exactly for a long time. People come across the border and drop their babies off in the river. Bye. People come across the border packed like sardines in vehicles that then are left there, locked in there, and then they just die and cook inside the vehicles. We have women arred and attacked, murders all over the place. Then they come in and they exist in a pseudo-legal state so that they can be essential slaves for the Democratic Party, doing jobs that people won't want to do, and Maria Salazar too. Don't take our cotton pickers, is what Maria was essentially saying. She didn't say cotton, she said vegetables, but we know what she meant. So that's Hillary. Then we also have Obama saying the same thing. And if it's one person, maybe that's just an oops. If it's two, now it's a strategy. Just like in the Epstein files, the Epstein class memo went out and they all got the talk. Stop saying you want our country to be destroyed.
But what is also true is that we're a nation of laws, we have borders, and we've got to figure out an immigration policy that is orderly and that is fair and is enforced in a sensible way that is compatible with our values, but may not fully capture the degree to which that kid should have the same chances in life as a U.S. citizen kid. But you know, we've got to accommodate the reality that the majority of the American people think that there's a difference between somebody who's a U.S. citizen and somebody who's not, and that they want an orderly immigration system.
Do you believe that?
And sometimes I think what happens in the online debate is if somebody suggests, well, we have to have some immigration enforcement, then somebody's going to point at that child and say, so you don't care about that kid, so you must be a bad person. But what is also...
No, we care about that kid. We care about that family. We just think that their home country is the best place for them. And having them exist here in an illegal state and an illegal status and trek thousands of miles or whatever is very dangerous to them. And if we didn't act as the world's receptacle for everybody who wants to come in here because their pupusa business is under attack in Guatemala, then maybe their home countries would improve. All of the dissidents who could be there in their home countries to enact reform and change, they leave. They come to the United States. If they were there, then maybe there would actually be some reform, but there's not because we act as the pressure relief valve for the whole world, even though it's increasing the pressure in our homeland. We just can't take it anymore. And this is a great new account on X, which is a wild account. You can validate these numbers for yourselves, but here is the source. Yearbook of Migration and Remittances, 2025, is the source of this data, courtesy of White Papers Policy Institute. They explain that 23% of all Mexicans, all of them in the world, live in the United States, which is interesting because this is not Mexico. There were barely 4 million Mexicans in 1960. Now there's 39. Remittances from the U.S. to Mexico also top $64 billion, meaning $64 billion that should be spent in our local communities is being siphoned out and sent back to Mexico. Some $9.3 billion comes from Texas, right out of their economy, and another $21 billion comes out of California. That's why America needs mass deportations. And we do. And you can see the numbers here. Remittances to Mexico from 2005 to 2024, just going up and up and up and up. Those numbers went up big time over the COVID years and the Biden years because we brought in many more of them. And 32% are living in California. They say that some numbers say that there are 2 to 3 million illegals in LA alone. So how do you deal with a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state that has millions of sanctuaries or sanctuary individuals inside of it? Very difficult to do that, which is why once you get past a certain point, once you cross the threshold, their idea is there's nothing you can do about it. They're here. Good luck getting rid of 2 million people. So numbers are shocking. Cost of sending USD to Mexico has gone down. This is something we could fix overnight. Just impose a tax or cut it off. Just say no more remittances to Mexico. Now, they would call that an act of war, and they would probably unleash hell in our country and activate a small portion of their invading force against us. But the numbers are what the numbers are. And that's probably why Hillary and Barack are now trying to reverse course on this, because their population, their constituency has also had enough. Trump is winning on some of these issues. You may not like the methodology of the removals, but the immigration problem is real. It's even hitting the Democrats, and they're now going to lie through their teeth about what's going on after they caused all of this to happen. But in Minnesota, we do have a victory, as we mentioned. We saw this get filed over the weekend. The order dropped today on 2/16 from the judge. Remember, this is the lawsuit. Keith Ellison and Tim Walz and the rest of them, Minnesota, Minneapolis, and St. Paul. How dare you enforce federal law in our cities? We're going to sue you. And now they're getting blown out. Here's the defendant's memorandum in opposition. We'll read this, then we'll read the order. This is from Kristi Noem and the Homeland team. They say, all right, Judge, the Minnesotans have already lost this, but they're trying again. Undaunted by the court's recent conclusion, and their lawsuit here has been really pathetic, actually. The last court was like, the last order, there's no 10th Amendment right against the enforcement of federal law. That doesn't exist. They say they just found that they're going to lose, and so now Minnesota and Keith Ellison, the same guy who did a podcast with Don Lemon, now they desire a second bite at the apple. And to support this futile effort, they came back to the court to ask this court to give them a fishing expedition license and grant them leave to conduct expansive discovery on an expedited basis. So go demand Kristi Noem come in and testify, or Greg Bovino, or whatever. Order them to come and provide us discovery information so we can get evidence. They say this is ridiculous. Good cause is absent from their request. They claim that they suffer from certain things, but they fail to explain anything. Their requests are overly broad, they're unduly burdensome, they are unjustified, and we already said Operation Metro Surge is going to conclude anyways. This is a significant development. They don't need any evidence, and that's why you should deny their motion. More background. On January 12th, Keith Ellison and Minnesota sued. They brought claims under the First Amendment, 10th Amendment, equal sovereignty, and APA claims, which are always a joke. Now, the same day, the Minnesotans, they said, we're going to be immediately harmed. There's going to be irreparable damage. And the court converted their motion into a preliminary injunction and held oral argument. Then the court came back and said, you guys are going to lose. You guys are terrible. Now they want discovery. They're coming back and saying, well, our arguments would be better if we had some evidence. And so now give us permission to go and inquisition the DOJ, in this case, Homeland, claiming that they're going to file a new motion and they're going to win on that motion. So they're asking the court to order sweeping discovery into everything, most of which lack any relevance to anything. They want every document, every video, every internal communication, everything relating to federal government immigration enforcement, and a host of other things related to training practices, law enforcement techniques, and more. So you should deny them. Any discovery should come later. We'll file a motion to dismiss later, and that's the appropriate time. You don't need to grant that now. They're bringing APA claims, the Administrative Procedures Act claim, which is like a catch-all type of argument, which is when the rest of your arguments are terrible. You're like, oh, I know, APA. And other judges, by the way, have like granted that. I think it was Amir Ali who said, you have to pay out billions of dollars because their APA claim stands. It's a joke. But they say, in light of all of this, don't allow them to demand discovery right now. And the argument from the DOJ continues. They fail to demonstrate the relevance, and so therefore you should deny everything. Now, the judge ruled on that today, and here's what he said. All right, the state of Minnesota, the city of Minneapolis, and the city of St. Paul, they brought this lawsuit against the Trump Homeland, saying that there is being damage inflicted on their residents. There's thousands of immigrant enforcement officers around, and they want us to declare the whole thing to be unconstitutional and unlawful, the judge says. Now, this matter is back here. We just said that their case sucks, but now they want discovery so that they can go just kind of pry the government apart, get some evidence, and then try again. Plaintiffs, the Minnesotans, seek an order requiring the Homeland people to respond to a written discovery request, and they want to depose them, to bring in Bovino and others. As grounds, Minnesota says that they're going to file another motion, and this discovery, this evidence that you allow us to go get, is going to give us evidence that we need for our motion. The court has carefully reviewed all the parties' briefs. Minnesota, we got your arguments. And I find that there is no hearing necessary. Now, though the court is acutely aware of the far-reaching and deeply traumatizing effects of Metro Surge, traumatizing, really, they're like the COVID people. The same COVID people who were spraying themselves down outside the grocery stores are now fascism is taking over America because we're enforcing federal immigration law. Same people. Metro Surge has had on our communities. However, your motion is denied. Nice. Now, plaintiffs filed this complaint. They brought it on January 12th. They said our constitutional rights are being violated. First Amendment, 10th Amendment, equal sovereignty, and more. The presiding judge in this case, called Menendez, converted this into a preliminary injunction, had a hearing, and then Judge Menendez denied their motion. Minnesota loses, even from a Judge Menendez. It's pretty good. So plaintiffs now state that they're going to file another motion. They're going to try again, another bite at the apple. And that we have good cause now for limited discovery. We need it expedited too, so that we can prepare for our next argument. They say this is necessary to inform factual questions. They know that the Judge Menendez expressed reluctance to grant this before. And so they said, we need this. We need to go fill the gaps. We need evidence. They also say that the Homeland declarations, along with recently leaked memos from Homeland, allow agents to enter homes without warrants. They say raises a bunch of questions. And so we have to get answers on this. So court, give us permission. The judge says, well, look, the rules are pretty clear on this. Rule 26F says litigants generally may not seek discovery from any source before the parties have conferred. Has that happened? And so in deciding this, I need to decide whether there's good cause for this. I have to weigh a bunch of things. Is an injunction pending? What is the breadth of the request? What is the purpose for expediting it? What is the burden on the government, Homeland, in complying with this? And how far in advance of this process was discovery made? Now, as these cases suggest, citing CARE and another one, Let Them Play, in appropriate circumstances, sometimes discovery is appropriate. Expedited discovery also may be warranted when you need to get identities of people that are unknown. But a party like Keith Ellison cannot gain permission to obtain early discovery simply by asserting a vague intent. I think I'm going to do this for a preliminary injunction. However, to hold otherwise would undermine the rules, and it would encourage a flood of meritless lawsuits focused on acquiring documents and testimony to begin the case. Fast forwarding through some quotes in case law. And so based on these cases, all articulated there, this court is compelled to conclude that Keith Ellison's demand is insufficiently supported and overly broad. You lose Keith, Tim, and Jacob. Operation Metro Surge, writes this judge, has had a devastating impact on Minnesota residents. Well, maybe the illegal residents. And public accountability for any unlawful conduct committed during its execution is still in its infancy. Now, the court understands and fully appreciates the public's profound desire for disclosure of policies and motivations, saying sunlight is one of the best disinfectants, of course. But Keith, Tim, and Jacob, you have simply not advanced a persuasive legal basis for obtaining discovery at this early stage. And here's why. It's because their motion suffers fatally from a lack of focus. Embarrassing. Focus, Keith. Stop going on Don Lemon's podcast when you're writing your briefs. They have not yet actually filed their motion for a preliminary injunction, nor have they identified with any degree of clarity the grounds on which they think this is warranted. This failure is particularly problematic because Judge Menendez already told you this. And now you're doing it again. Already rejected your first attempt. Well, they say our second motion is not going to be the same as the old one, but they've never introduced any new grounds at all. They do not explain in any detail what those arguments will be, and even more problematically, they do not even attempt to explain how any particular discovery request might support an actual argument. Embarrassing. Because they have made no effort to identify the arguments they intend to make or explain how the information they seek supports those arguments, they have not established that the requested discovery is not only relevant but necessary to advance their claims. Now, though the court can imagine how some of this information might be useful, it's not our job to speculate about that. You have to file it, and your failure to carry this burden compels a decision to deny the motion. Wow, they're terrible. Further, their discovery requests do not even come close to meeting the requirement that these are targeted, specific, and limited to identifiable pieces of information. It's a phishing operation. They pay lip service to that standard, but their characterization of the request is limited. It's disingenuous. They seek answers to 10 interrogatories requests and responses to 20 document requests, including one request, number 9, which itself has 10 different subparts. Now, the majority of these requests seek, quote, all documents and communications about broad categories, which they define to include everything from spoken communications. They want handwritten notes. They want typed messages, calendar entries, text messages, video recordings. To note just 2 illustrative examples, they want all documents and communications related to use of force, protest activities, and more from December 1, 25 to present. They say, well, that appears to demand every communication among the approximately 3,000 agents deployed. They also want all documents, operational plans, briefing decks, memoranda, and more. They say if we read this literally, this request is wholly unlimited demand for each and every document it generated. Okay. And like there are other judges that would grant this. This is why they tried it. They also seek to depose the declarants, the Homeland people. Now, though the plaintiff described the general topics that they think that these people have, they do not explain why their testimony is necessary for their argument. Instead of using a surgical scalpel to obtain only that information which may be necessary, they want permission to cast a wide fishing net, and we're not going to give it to them. So finally, to the extent that Minnesota argues they need expedited discovery to develop the record, the court is unconvinced that this will appreciably move the needle. They want everything, all documents. And that bears directly on what Judge Menendez already did. She rejected it. She said, well, I've got evidence supporting both sides' arguments as to the motivation and the merits of each side's position. And so I'm not going to grant it in your favor. Both sides have already produced substantial information. You've gotten a bunch. It's not apparent how this new discovery is going to even add to the conversation. Even less apparent is how this discovery might obtain on this topic and add any to the conversation that we had with Menendez. Though the court recognizes that there are circumstances at this moment are unprecedented, we need a public accounting for what happened. The court must uphold the law fairly and impartially, and the law dictates that expedited discovery must be narrowly targeted to support necessary ends. And because Keith Ellison and Tim Walz's motions don't, that motion is denied. Punks, get out of here. Based on the foregoing and all of the following, it is hereby ordered that Keith Ellison loses again. What a terrible lawyer. Signed by Dulcie. This is amazing. We've got Dulcie and Menendez, both Hispanic names, who are now saying, you guys are ridiculous. Get out of here. Pretty incredible. So Keith Ellison loses again. He's just terrible. Maybe he can go do another podcast with Darlema and maybe go yell at the judge's wife who works for him. But while all this is happening, they're also saying, we're not going to give you any information about the Alex Preddy or Renee Good shootings. Those are federal investigations. You attack them under federal jurisdiction, and so it's our investigation, not yours. Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension said, we've released a statement from the superintendent, Drew Evans, on our investigation into the Alex Preddy shooting. They really want to charge somebody for that, even though that person was bringing himself to the felony, which was obstructing federal agents. We saw that multiple times. Rand Paul needs to watch the video. Here is what they posted. They said, the FBI formally notified Minnesota, we're not giving you access to any information in the shooting death of Alex Preddy. We reiterated their request to receive this. We want it. We want access. We want cooperation in Renee Good too. And another one of Julio Sosa Silas. But it remains unclear if there will be any cooperation or sharing of information. Why? So you can just prosecute them like you guys did with George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, even though he died of a heart attack or drug overdose. His heart failed is what the coroner said. You still put him in prison for 20 years. While this lack of cooperation is concerning and unprecedented, we're committed through independent and transparent investigations, even if we're hampered by access to evidence. We will continue to pursue all legal avenues, and they really want to indict these agents. And you can see the prosecutor out there, Mary Moriarty, this happened, by the way, just blocks away from where George Floyd died from drug overdose or whatever, saying, we remain committed to investigating these deaths. They really want to bring charges. We'll see if that ultimately happens. But Kristi Noem was out last week. You may have missed it. And she said this, there's only one reason anyone would oppose common sense election integrity efforts, right? Immigration is connected to voting. It's connected to benefits and fraud. So she is out at Homeland saying, only reason they would oppose election integrity is because they want to cheat. They want illegal aliens to vote. They want the illegal aliens to be in their jurisdiction so they get more federal money when the budget is passed, so they get more House representatives after the census is conducted. She says, with President Trump at the helm, we are fighting to ensure this cheating doesn't happen. Our elections must be secure, fair, and decided by American citizens. Here's Kristi Noem last week on Valentine's Day.
Each of the arguments that have been laid out to criticize this bill are baseless speculation from the radical left because they want illegal aliens to vote in our elections. They want to disenfranchise American citizens by telling them that their votes don't matter. There's only one reason that anyone would oppose this bill, and that's because they would want to cheat. They want illegal people and aliens in this country to be able to vote for them and to rob the United States citizens of their vote. And that's why they resist us at every single level when we're trying to deport people back to their home countries or stop them from committing crimes against the American people. That's why they do not support voter ID, proof of U.S. citizenship, or clean voter rolls. That's why the Save America Act is absolutely critical to our country's future. Because without secure elections, we lose what makes our country so great. And then when we lose that, we lose our country altogether.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And that's kind of the idea, is they don't want, old America, heritage Americans to continue to govern things because we demand improvements. We demand actual governance and good policy versus Somalians who come in. They don't care about any of that. As long as Tim Walz and Keith Ellison continue to keep them fat and happy and plowed with American cash. Here's more from Kristi Noem. This one's capturing a lot of attention. 4.4 million views. She says, we do want to elect the right people.
And elections is another one of those critical infrastructure responsibilities that I have as well. And I would say that many people believe that it may be one of the most important things that we need to make sure we trust is reliable, and that when it gets to election day that we've been proactive to make sure that we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country through the days that we have, knowing that people can trust it. and
Exactly. And they're upset about the fact that she said the right leaders. Who are those? Well, I don't know. The leaders that American citizens vote for. Not illegal aliens, not TPS, refugee asylees, not double votes or triplicate ballots like in Fannyland in Georgia. Actual citizens, if they're participating, and I mean real citizens, not Ugandan Mamdanis who lied on their naturalization forms. That's a fraudulent citizen. He knows it. Everyone knows it. Nobody wants to talk about it because, oh, how dare you denaturalize somebody who's a citizen and a mayor? Well, because they're liars. They lied on their form. You fill out your form for naturalization. Do you believe in the U.S. Constitution? Do you believe in capitalism as an economic structure? Do you have any affiliation with communism? He lied on all of those boxes, so he should be denaturalized and deported along with many others. But here is Tom Homan, who has had a change of strategy as he has taken the helm, and he was asked about that article that came out from the Wall Street Journal about Kristi Noem and her blanket and the pilot and all the things. And here's what Tom had to say about that.
A Wall Street Journal report published in recent days, I'm sure you've seen it, details widespread concerns with the leadership of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and her chief advisor, Corey Lewandowski. The report says you rarely speak with the secretary or Lewandowski, despite the fact that you oversee immigration issues as well from the White House perspective, and that you've repeatedly complained to the White House about them. What is your concern with Secretary Noem and Corey Lewandowski?
Look, it's one team, one fight. I'm not playing in that, media.
Nonsense.
They're trying to divide this administration. They want to attack the men and women who work in this administration. Look, do me and Secretary Noem agree on everything? No. That's why we have discussions. That's why every day we have a multi-agency conference call and meeting, and we discuss going forward. And we have different opinions. Well, those different opinions are worked out, and we move forward. The bottom line is we have the most secure border in the history of this nation. We got record numbers of criminal aliens arrested and deported in this country because this is one team, one fight. The results speak for themselves.
But you don't dispute you've had disagreements with them at times, even if they've been resolved?
I have a disagreement with we got many federal agencies, and it's not a out of control disagreement. I want to do it this way. Someone wants to do it this way. Then we talk about, well, what works best in this situation.
Wow.
We all come to agreement in the end, but it's a discussion of different ideas. I've been doing this for 40 years. We have the Rodney Scott that runs CBP has been doing it for 30 years. So we all come to the table. We come up with different ideas, but we settle on a mission. And I think the results of this mission speaks for themselves. Again, the most secure border in history of this nation, because of our collaboration and record numbers of criminal aliens being arrested and deported. The results speak for themselves.
They do, and it's like a foreign conversation. Every little disagreement they have to extrapolate into a nuclear war inside the administration. Look, there's chaos in the Trump administration. No, there's not. They're just having some conversations about the best path forward. And so it's not only in America. We're not the only ones who are sick of being invaded by foreigners. Even the Democrats agree. Obama, Clinton, and now our friends in the UK. Shout out to our friend Rupert Lowe. Said, today, I am launching the Restore Britain Party as a national political party. Join us. And this is one of the best political videos we've ever seen. Here is Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain.
I have chosen to speak to you today from the farm because places like this represent what proper Britain is about. Hard work, responsibility, effort, duty, stewardship. This is the England I know, and this is the England that I love. On a farm, you don't think in election cycles or headlines or polling. You think in seasons. You think in generations, in what you leave behind to those who come after you. And that's why, here on the farm, I am now launching Restore Britain as a national political party. I'm now going to dedicate my life to finding, organising, funding, and providing hundreds of qualified candidates to present to the British people at the next general election. This process has already started, with invitations being issued to patriots in aligned political parties, Reform, the Conservatives, the SDP, Advance, and more. In local politics, we will work in partnership with localised political parties, such as Great Yarmouth First, that have the best interests of their residents at heart, combining our forces at the next general election. The men and women standing for Restore in that election will not be politicians, I promise you that. They will not be failed ministers. They will not be tainted by failures of the past. They will be from business, from the military, from science, from medicine, from education, from industry, representing real communities up and down the country. Every single one will be from well outside the existing political establishment, and every single one will understand the difficult decisions that need to be taken. Because there are no easy fixes. I'm not going to tell you comforting lies about the condition of our country. I have only ever been honest with the British people, and I will be straight with you now. What is necessary will be incredibly painful. But for the first time in a very long time, voters will have a genuine alternative which is truthful with them about the scale of what now has to be done. The first priority is to control who comes to our country, and more importantly, who stays in our country. Restore Britain will not just stop mass immigration, we will reverse it. Every single illegal migrant will be securely detained and then deported.
Let's go.
The message will be unrelenting. If you are in this country without our permission, you will be removed. For the foreseeable future, far more people must leave Britain than arrive.
Same here.
If a foreign national is unable to speak English, lives in social housing, claims benefits, refuses to work, fails to integrate, commits crime, or even actively hates our way of life and wishes to do us harm, then they must leave or be made to leave.
Afuera.
Restore Britain will make our communities safe again for women and children. That I promise you. If that means millions go, then millions go. We're constantly told that the economy needs vast swathes of low-skilled migrants. We know that's simply not true. What we need is to get millions of healthy Brits back into work. A radical overhaul of how welfare is delivered. Protecting those in genuine need, but not funding healthy shirkers to live off the back of hard-working men and women. If you can work, you must work. It really is that simple. Restore Britain will be abundantly clear. If you consistently refuse work, then you will lose your benefits. We will punish indolence, and more importantly, we will reward success. We will provide vast economic incentives for men and women to start businesses, generate opportunities, build wealth, and create self-sufficient families. Standing here today on the farm, I know exactly what it means to deal with energy bills, labour shortages, regulation, unproductive paperwork, planning restrictions, tax, and endless uncertainty. The state has definitively become the enemy of the people. Restore Britain will burn away suffocating taxes on work and enterprise. We will slash unnecessary regulation. We will dismantle bloated quangos and the overbearing HR culture. We must crush parasitic Britain. We will restore long-term, stable, logical policy so that businesses can plan and invest and grow again. But Restore Britain is about much more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about who we are as a nation and who we are as a people. Britain is not just an economy. Britain is not just an idea. Britain is not just a passport. Britain is a nation. Britain is a people, our people. And Restore Britain will never allow that to be erased. We will celebrate our Christian heritage and the identity that built and shaped this country. Amen. Responsibility, restraint, forgiveness, duty, and fairness. In short, a high-trust society. That will mean defending our culture. That will mean resisting the relentless creep of radical Islam. That will mean banning the burqa, outlawing Sharia law, blocking cousin marriages, and reimposing our Christian-based rule of law. A Restore Britain government would legislate to ensure that no halal or kosher slaughter on British soil. This is Britain, and we will do things our way. This political party now exists for one reason: to restore Britain, to make it a better, safer, and more prosperous place for British men and women to raise their families. It will be difficult, and it will be painful, but I assure you, it is possible. I hope you will consider joining me on this journey and becoming a member of our party. It is our country. It is now our collective responsibility to act. Together, we will restore Britain. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. So it's happening over there. People have just had enough of this. It's happening in Japan. It's happening in America. People are realizing we've been sold a bill of lies about what we need to be good people and a good nation and not be such bigots or xenophobes or whatever, as our whole livelihoods have been stolen from us our entire lives. So I don't think I can join the party, but if you're in Britain, in the UK, I'm jealous, to be honest with you. We want that for our friends. We want that for America. In fact, I think a lot of what he said there is exactly why President Trump got elected in the first place, because we want to restore American excellence. And we want our British friends, our mother country, to do the same. We don't want to be the only light on the planet that cares about our values. And we cannot allow them to be hollowed out. So we stand with our friends in Britain. One of the best videos I've ever seen, man. I'm fired up. I need like a cup of tea and some crumpets to calm me down a little bit. So shout out to our friends. Godspeed to our friends in the UK. We're with you and we'll support you. All right, my friends. Now let's see what you say about all of this. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about. Woo! Oh, I'm jazzed, baby. Let's go. All right. So we talked about Kathryn Rumler and how the Democrats are all over the Epstein files. And we can't just post through it and just not talk about it when they're filling the air with their talking points that are filled with lies. Ultimately, you see they're all calling the Trump administration the Epstein class when it's their class. It's Ruemmler, it's Reid, it's Obama, it's Hillary, it's Clinton, it's on and on and on. It's their people, but we're allowing them to define our side because we have a bunch of weak Republicans who can't even go on camera and explain this, that there is an actual path forward for indictments. And we've laid that out very explicitly. Last thing we wanted to do here was just be another hyperventilator, have an actual plan. We have 4 people who can be indicted. They're all in the non-prosecution agreement, some of whom were in the draft indictment. Their names have been redacted because they're now called victims, even though they were contemplated as being a co-conspirator. We want more on this, and we have a plan for Pam. Hopefully she's listening to the show. Pam Bondi. We went through some emails and looked at some documents. The new release identifies a bunch of names in there. None of these people, are going to be indicted, probably. But we have a list. So that came out. We then looked at some other letters and memos going around. We don't know how true it is or what the FBI did with it. So hopefully we can get some answers on that. Are there bodies buried in Zoro Ranch? Can someone go take a look? We had Tom Emmer. We had Thomas Massie, who got a legal disclaimer on the back of his little exchange there, because even ABC knows there's no evidence of Trump being implicated in this stuff. But if you go on YouTube, if you go on the mainstream media, it's all Trump implicated, Trump implicated. They're getting hundreds of thousands and millions of views. And so we have to fill the breach. Thank you for helping us do that. Then we talked about how the Democrats are now reversing course on immigration because they know they're going to get blown out at the ballot box if they don't. They want to do the Abigail Spanberger routine, backtrack on it. Obama, Hillary. We know that now looks like almost a quarter of all Mexicans live in the United States, even though there's Mexico, but they live here. So, all right. So we heard about that, went through some Minnesota litigation, know that they have terrible lawyers out there. I don't know if these are Somali lawyers who are writing these or what, but they're terrible. The judge said, you're dumb. You already lost. And now you're asking for us to do it again. without changing your argument at all. So you lose again. Went through that. We also saw that they are going to still be battling over the shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy and another guy. And we then heard from Kristi Noem and heard Tom Homan, and then, of course, joined in on Team Restore Britain. It's amazing. I'm trying to think of other English things that I know. I don't know, man. If this guy was like, Rob, you have to watch Monty Python to help us save Britain. All right, if I have to. But only if it comes from him. All right, but now, my friends, let's hear from you, and let's see what you say about all of this. Happy President's Day. We were talking about our favorite presidents this morning on the members only stream. We had some Roosevelts in there. We had some Andrew Jacksons. We had a Thomas Jefferson. Reagan was in the list. All good ones. Hopefully you're celebrating it. And we got some donos in the house. Muffin Rando, Donut Mind Me. Thank you for clipping for us. Hey, King of Biltong is here. One old guy's here. What's going on? What a lovely day. Thanks for joining us, my friends, and thanks for supporting our work here. We'll be back on our members only morning stream tomorrow morning. Join up on YouTube or on Locals or on Substack. And we'll see you there. Oh yeah, here's one from Obama. So how is this going to go down? Well, you know, federal agents will come knock on your door and you can come out voluntarily, or we'll come in and get you. It's either one of those. Hey, what's up? Ruby Hoove. Hey, Ruby. Gifted a membo. Ruby Hoove is a membo. Gifted a membo to Dorsey Woods. Grab the stream from this morning. We were talking about that tub of goo called Reid Hoffman, the billionaire, this morning. Another membo gifted. What's going on? Ruby, bringing in MCM21RN in the house. What's up, MCM? Great to have you here as our newest membo. Pithy joined up as a monthly supporter over on Rumble. Man, thank you, Pithy, for doing that. Very nice of you to do that. We'll see you over there. We appreciate you signing up. Chubby says, I don't understand the kerfuffle is all about. Every time I hired a lawyer, I make sure they're contractually obligated to refer to me as Uncle Chubby Stubby. Man, that's a smart idea. I should have done that. Made all my clients Uncle Robbie. Then I could also be in prison like the rest of them. In all communications and official court documents, there's nothing weird here at all. No, standard operating procedure. Uncle Jeffrey. These people are sick. Thank you, Chubby. That's a funny comment. Corn Dog Anti-Hero says, isn't he someone's brother? Yeah, I saw this headline. Jason Hinkle posting this. Billionaire Tom Pritzker bragged to Epstein that he was in Afghanistan with boys with toys. Yeah, I think that guy's resigning, right? That was Pritzker from the Hyatt family. So the Hyatt family's also losing people. So again, they're all Obama people and Democrats. Like you got Howard Lutnick in there. You got a Steve Bannon in there. You know, they'll have to explain themselves on that. But it's Obama, it's Rumler, it's Clinton, it's Hillary, it's many of them. The Pritzker family, they're all in these files. And somehow they're capturing the narrative that it's our party that's the Epstein class. It's outrageous. Thank you for that. From Corn Dog Anti-Hero. Man, I haven't had a corn dog since like middle school, maybe. They put them on those trays. Like, here, have some lunch. I'm like, what is this? It's like 15 years old. Hey, 200 Watt Studio. Finally proof that Marilyn Monroe and Elvis were still living after they were declared dead as they were on the Epstein Island per the latest list. Well, see, that's the thing. Like, Elvis is on there, right? Elvis is on this list. Are you joking me? Where's Elvis at? He's on the list. I think that's right. Elizabeth II, George somebody. Is it going to be under Presley? Lisa Marie. I'm pretty sure he's on here. Let me do a Control F. Is this Elvis? Elvis Presley. There he is right there. He's still alive? Oh my gosh. And he was hanging out with Epstein? Hunk of burning love, huh? All right, gross. Corn Dog. Here's the truth bomb. The United States has already been lost. You are in the Reconquista phase trying to take it back. Yeah, I don't know that I'd go that far. But we are in the Reconquista phase. This is why I say we can't lose a single territory. This is why I say that we need to really get aggressive with the sanctuary cities. Because if we don't, we will have lost it. Like we may have lost California, LA. They're pretty much a one-party state that are beyond reproach in many ways. That part is lost, but we're not going to allow them to continue conquering. And eventually they're going to crumble. Like that's the problem with these places is if they can't rely on the federal teat to continue to pay for all their illegal aliens, then people leave. Like California, they lost like $1 trillion of wealth instantly because of their crap policies. So who's going to pay for all the illegals? It's going to turn into Mexico. It's going to turn into Somalia. We got to cut them off. They'll fail. We don't want to lose a territory. We're not losing 1 inch of America, not 1 inch, and we're going to get it all back eventually, but they have to be defeated, clearly. And the deportations, we need that British guy to come over here and talk to Congress and say, hey, this is a working policy. People want this. Gauntlet KI, thank you. Hey, Rep calls, bring Epstein class before Congress. Donkey who? From Gauntlet KI. Well, and they just, like, who do you want to be indicted? Name somebody. Jamie Raskin. Name somebody. Thomas Massey. Who should be indicted for what charge? What is the crime? Do you have a victim? Do you have a witness? Do you have anybody? Or are you just running your mouth? We know what the answer is. Hey, one old guy. Rob, now I am on board with Bondi being let go. She's in trouble. Like, she's going to be in trouble. If nothing happens, like her, Todd Blanche, and like other people who are going to be accused of being a part of the cover-up, I mean, I could be wrong about it, but the Democrats, I think that they're going to subpoena them. They're going to say that they lied to Congress, like Kash Patel. They're going to say you lied to Congress. I don't think that they have, actually, but they're going to make the argument, and it doesn't really matter whether they did or not, as we know. Doesn't matter whether there's any, breach of the law or whatever, because they just will prosecute you, just like they did with the J6ers. One old guy. Everything is outed. No perp walks. Carrot of potential prosecution. 1 year with all the info and release Epstein law. Dude is ended. Hillary hasn't self-ended anyone for a while. Perp walks need to happen. Yeah, and I again, I don't want to be one of these people who's just screaming into the wind. Do something, Pam. Do what? I don't know anything. You just sound hysterical. We have 4 people that were in the non-prosecution agreement listed explicitly as co-conspirators who deserved immunity. The court said that they don't have immunity outside of Florida. There's no statute of limitations for their trafficking crimes. They can all be indicted. I agree. It feels a little bit weird to go indict, the women, but they were the traffickers. And if they want to take a plea deal and get probation or whatever, they can implicate the Johns who were receiving these. Maxwell's not going to talk for whatever reason. Maybe because she knows too much and she's angling for a pardon or something, but these other people will. Leslie Groff, they're all running free. They're all hanging around America right now. All 4 of them, just doing whatever. So have they even been interviewed? Have they even been brought in? The DOJ doesn't have anything that's shackling them from going after them. They've already written the indictment. It's already in a draft form. Just copy that one out. Change the dates. And I want to see them succeed, but if it's everything that we see is just kind of making it worse, and people are not going to move on from it. Hans, Obama White House lawyer Rumler's revelations are not new. This was all already known before the Epstein file was released. So you're saying this show sucked, is what you're saying. Thank you, Hans. What a waste sorry to waste your time, Hans, since you knew it all already. My apologies for that, but thank you. Hey, what's going on? We got King of Biltong is here. Looking for real food? Try some biltong, made with clean ingredients and done the right way. At Biltong USA, we don't make processed junk. No, they don't. Check it out, biltongusa.com, and use code Robert. You'll save 10% off. Thank you for that, King of Biltong. Grab your biltong, my friends. I'm in my prime, baby, one old guy says. I'm getting tired of Tom Massey. Yeah, he's like a Democrat now. You can see it. He's doing the same talking point. He's in the same group chat right here. The Epstein class, the Epstein class, the Epstein class. Where were the Democrats when they were in charge under Obama, when Kathy Rumler was hanging out with them? Where were the Democrats when Biden was in charge? Nowhere to be found. Thomas Massey was nowhere to be found because now it's just a political attack. And the Republicans, man, if they don't defend themselves as not being part of the Epstein, they're all quiet right now. I see the Democrats all day on cables, all day long, hitting it, making videos, posting on X, pedophile protector constantly. It's just it's a matter of volume, okay? Who can talk louder and who can make more posts about it? They're going to win the narrative battle, and the Republicans are not even playing. So if they don't play, they're going to be defined as pedophile protectors. And they're going to deserve that label because they didn't push back against it at all. Yeah, Jonah Finn, what's up? I'm sorry, but Obama lawyer resigns is like yelling in chat. Too bright too. It has a snow blinding effect and draws all attention to it. I have to set TV on movie mode to dim it. You don't like the big white label there, Jonah Finn? That's good feedback. Thank you for the feedback. Everybody else, let me know if you hate it or not. Cecil says, what's going on? Hey, Cecil says, rated the stream today. Thank you, Cecil. We appreciate the raid. Shout out to our Cecil Says friends over in the house. Thanks for coming in over from Rumble. We appreciate it. One old guy says, the Bolsheviks of Minnesota, both the ground troops and unelected and elected leaders, Judge Dulcie Sweet J. Foster with a sweet kick to the Bolshevik jewels. Bolshevik jewels. That's a Nads joke, I think. Yeah, we've got communists everywhere. In Minnesota, in California, all over the place. Thank you, one old guy, for the nice dono. We appreciate it. What's going on? Chris Yarko in the house. What's up, Chris? Thank you, Chris, for joining us. We had a great members-only stream this morning. Check it out. Happy President's Day. One old guy. Why is there an immigration problem in the West? Because Bolsheviks have allied themselves with Islam to employ hijra. This will grow a majority of Islam alongside of the Bolsheviks. It is Medina 2.0. Man, I don't even know what a hijra is or Medina is. So I'll have to figure that out. Thank you, one old guy. Yeah, I mean, the Bolsheviks were communist, right? So we have Democrats who are, I think, a new version of that. But yeah, they're communists through and through. Thank you, one old guy. Neuro D. Yeah, Rob, I think X changed the way they show live streams. They no longer have a post with a live. I've noticed that. Yeah, we're just not showing up on X anymore. I've been sharing the stream on X, but you might consider posting the show link for Rumble and I guess CommiTube so the X peeps can easily find and repost the stream. God bless. Thank you, Neuro D, for that. Yeah, I thought it was like a temporary problem. Like, for example, it said, it's not showing me the message, but on I use Restream to restream our content. And on Restream, they say that it is a temporary error. So I kind of thought that they were going to fix it. But Elon, who knows? Thank you, Neuro D. Shout out to our friends on X. Our live streams are not showing up there. I don't know if anybody's are. If it's just us or if it's just a change at X. One old guy says, Turncoat Simpy Massey. Turncoat Simpy Massey. Yeah, I don't know what Massey's ultimately doing. I mean, on one hand, we appreciate the files getting released. We appreciate accountability, and him and Ro Khanna were useful in that. But then that was almost like not in good faith. It was almost like they did it just so that they could have something to scream about against the administration. And they would never be happy with whatever happened, in other words. If you release everything with no redactions, they're going to be furious. If you release with redactions, they're furious. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I think that Massey is being a little bit disingenuous now by calling this administration the Epstein class when there's evidence of the prior Democratic Party actually being the Epstein class. Who was actually transacting with Epstein? Well, it was guys like, or women like Kathryn Rumler, and the list of people we went through today, Reid Hoffman and others. Anyways, thank you for that, one old guy. Baby Lewis, cheers to restore Britain. Cheers, man, cheers. Now who has the guts to do that here in America? Come on, JD, Rubio, and Trump and Republicans, get off your booties. He was absolutely right on. And I agree completely. That guy was on fire, man. I was jazzed up. Like I said, I needed to get some tea and crumpets and watch William and Grallis. Is that his name? Wallace and Grillis? Wilmer and Gremlin? What's the name of that? Those were pretty good. Walmer. I have to figure it out. Rubos. Everyone on the chat should tag Pam Bondi with a link to the show. It's a good strategy, right? The Rubos? At least we have names. At least we have some legal arguments that can back up our charges. Hey, this old guy. Good to see you. Thank you, Rubos. Good to see you. RubosSaltShop.com. Hey, this old guy. Wow. Joining Rupert Lowe and Restore Britain Party. Great political message in video. Yeah, I guess you could join if you're in America and just, send them some cash. We want to save the UK too, because we need friends in multiple places. The world should be more aligned with our values because they're good. And why? Rob, no kidding. I am one of 2 MDs with my last name. When you search my name, just doctors, it comes up in the files. I have never spoken to or corresponded with Epstein, but Leslie Groff mentions my name trying to get an appointment for her employer. I'm starting to align with Dershowitz on this. What? And why? That's pretty wild. Is it a coincidence? Like, do you have a common name? This morning on the member stream, we looked up my name in the Epstein files. Gouveia. It's in there. It's in there. But it's a reference to the Supreme Court case, U.S. versus Gouveia. So that's the only reason. I'm not a PDF file, but you can look it up. It's pretty funny. E. Texley, has the statute of limitations already run out on those women who were unindicted co-conspirators? No, I would say the argument is no. And let me show you the, I always forget the name, like Adam Walsh Act, I think is what it is. Adam Walsh Child Safety Protection Act. Yeah, we talked about this on Saturday. So look this up. So Pam Bondi, okay, here you go. Just use this. It's called the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act. It's in law. George Bush signed it into law in 2006, unanimous. And there's been some modifications to it. But here's the story. Crimes against children, here you go, even according to Wikipedia, just for a quick, reference point. Let me zoom in on this. Yes. What does the act do? In the area of federal criminal law and procedure, the act enlarges the kidnapping statute and eliminates the statute of limitations for certain offenses and crimes committed against children. What were the crimes in the draft indictment? Trafficking minors. Those are crimes against children. So she doesn't essentially have a statute of limitations is the argument. And now, since we know that immunity doesn't protect any of them outside of Florida, because Maxwell got prosecuted in New York, Maxwell made the argument that the immunity deal immunizes her, because I think it did. That was the argument. Like, what? No lawyer would have your client sign that if it was only cabined off to one district. It's ridiculous. But the court found it that way. Perfect. That means Maxwell can be prosecuted. She appealed. She took it up to the Supreme Court. They rejected that back in October, which means there is no immunity for those co-conspirators outside of Florida. And they were all over the place. They were in New York. They were in Zoro. They were in the Virgin Islands. No SOL, no immunity. They're running around free right now. So I think that is a strategy, and they can be prosecuted. Wallace and Gromit. That's it. That's it. Wallace and Gromit. Yeah, those were fun. Wallace and Gromit, man. Those were pretty fun. I remember watching those as a boy, I think. Or maybe high school, or maybe college. I don't know. But yeah, those were fun. Wallace and Gromit, the claymations. And it was like one of the earlier claymations that was really good. Look at him having tea and crumpets, man. Just like I want to have now after that British guy. Wallace and Gromit. That's it. 24 months as a member. Thank you, Real Intel, for being here so long. Yeah, the Rubo says Massey is trying to destroy Trump and we pray it backfires. Yeah, I think that's right. He's taken the files and he's trying to use them as a cudgel against Trump when that's disingenuous. That's not honest. It's way broader and bigger than that, but he has a personal vendetta. And so he's exploiting this. I don't think they care at all about the victims. It's a political football and they're exploiting it. And that's gross. As much as I'm happy that we have files and some, accountability on this, and we have something to, pry open from the elite superstructure that has been keeping this hidden from us for multiple presidencies, it's not just Trump. To make it just about Trump is disingenuous, it's dishonest, and it's not appreciated. So we have to talk about it and push back. One old guy, Massey, my new wife's a socialist Democrat, which pretty much makes me a socialist Democrat. Is that right? I don't want to bring his wife into it. Is she a Democrat? Great. Thank you, one old guy, for the dono. Hey, psychological projectionist. Alas, a lot of Brits TDS. I miss the indoctrination. Man, thank you for the dono, psychological projectionist. Is that going on over there? I don't know. I don't know how you're a British person and you hear that speech and you're not like, let's go. The alternative is we have to bring in a bunch of Pakistanis and then chop the genitals off of our boys. And you're going to like it too. I don't think that's a real good strategy. Stand up Americans. What's up? Kate Barris, Playing a Republican in our race is Adam NC. Kate Barris is playing a Republican in our race is Adam NC. Man, that is like a riddle. I'm going to have to work on that one tonight. Thank you, Stand Up Americans, for the dono. You have a race in North Carolina? Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Playing a Republican. Yes, that's right. There is a Democrat, a super lib, who's running in the Republican primaries. She's admitting it, but she's like, I have to win here. Otherwise, a Republican is going to win the seat because of the district. So she's not running as a Democrat in the Democratic primary because the Democrats will lose. She's running as a Republican in the Republican primary. So the Democrats will cross over and vote for her, and then she can win the race, which is not a bad strategy if you're in a district like that. Hey, Tony Hay Munkets. Good to see you, Tony Hay. 5 membos coming in. We got Stand Up American, Jam Man Rooney, Off Label Podcast. Shout out there right next door. We got Scooby Don't rather than Scooby Doo. We got Richard Jack is here. And Richard Jack says there's a couple of trolls floating around the room, Rob. Yeah, it's all right. It's okay to have some trolls in the house. Hopefully they're learning something too. Shout out to our trolls. What's going on, my friends? Thank you for sending those in. Happy Monday. We're going to have a great week together. And you may see on our YouTube channel, we have scheduled for this Friday. So Friday is going to be a little bit different here because your boy got invited to go do an event, to go help MC an event actually in California for our friends at Empower Oversight. A new documentary is going to be released. And so we're going to live stream that puppy, not the documentary, but the announcement. And we're going to have some awesome people. I think John Solomon's coming on. We might have Mike Benz come on. Miranda Devine might be on. I think absolutely will be on. The IRS whistleblowers. We're going to do a whole thing on Friday. So that's going to be a ton of fun. You're going to see that. It's already scheduled. But we'll be back tomorrow on the regular schedule as well. And so just a little heads up, that's coming. AZ Soccer Opa. Yeah, no, I have not met Andy Biggs. Rob, have you had a chance to meet or get to know Andy Biggs? He may be a good avenue for you to share your plan for the Epstein files. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. AZ Soccer Opa in the house. No, I don't know him, actually, but it would be good to connect with him at some point. Nathan, thank you for the suggestion. Nathan, Ian Carroll and friends have produced this web app for the Epstein files. It uses AI to analyze documents that have been released so that you can chat with AI and ask it questions about the contents. It's over at app.theweb.io, and the code to use it is called Goyim. Oh, that's great. Because that's what Jeffrey said in the files. Yeah, it's great. App.theweb.io. So check it out. Shout out to Ian Carroll and the crew over there. There's some interesting people doing some interesting coding. Like I said, there's a JTube, I think, which is all the videos in a YouTube analog. Yep, people are digging into it. Thank you, Nathan, for the heads up. Yeah, why would they bury the bodies anyways? I don't know. Didn't Epstein get gallons of sulfuric acid? They just dissolve all the bodies anyways. Ugh. Amy Ann, the victims who won't testify took the money. They allowed themselves to be paid off, so they can't say anything now. But they will stand there with signs and tears in their eyes and pretend to be victims, even though many of them were overage. Many of them were facilitating the trafficking. Now they turn around, oops, I was trafficked, and now I'm a victim, even though they were part of the exploitations. So you might have sympathy for that, but that's okay. Charge them. Then in order to they do this for everybody else, by the way. They charge people in order to get leverage on other people to charge. It's not even uncommon. They already had a list of 4 people. Hopefully that video was out. We recorded it on Saturday, but hopefully we got that out. We did a full analysis on Saturday on the whole Epstein strategy. Michael Swisher, what's up? Vampire, doesn't like sunlight. Superman, doesn't like kryptonite. Massey, doesn't like a list of abusers Massey promised to release. I mean, I would have a lot more respect for Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey. They're Congress people. They can see things that we can't. They can go in and look at the files and go through them. And if they, we came out with a list of 4 people who should be indicted right away. Where's their list? Where's anybody's list? I'd like to know. I'd like to see. But so far, it hasn't been that. It's just been talking in platitudes and going on media interviews to smash the current administration. Do you want Trump to be indicted? For what? For when and for whom? This one from Michael Swisher. Can we get some alone time with these unredacted files? Yeah, have all the time in the world that you want. You too. Have a great field day. Come back and let us know who you want to be indicted. Otherwise, maybe stop running your mouths unless you've got something to put behind it, which is how I feel. Actually give us a name. Otherwise, it feels like you're just talking in circles, and we hate talking politicians who do nothing. There's a treadmill in the House. What is that, going around and around and around? Hey, E. Texley. Yeah, Massey's wife is a former staffer of Rand Paul. Is that right? Massey is angry with Trump, in part because Trump has tried to trash Massey's current wife and the marriage. Yeah, this whole thing is personal because of wife talk. Like, is that seriously where this is? Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Massey's got some ulterior motive. He's in a tough election campaign. He's talked a lot about Israel, right? There's an Israel component to this whole thing as well. And Massey might be on that. Ro Khanna, though, like these other guys are just dishonest. Like, how many times has Ro Khanna mentioned Reid Hoffman? Virtually never, if ever. So it's partisan. Massey's joining in on that. And I think Massey has a problem with certain donors or something. And some of those donors who are against Massey or in support of Trump. So it's about money and foreign policy, which is fine. You can have it about that, but don't lie to us and tell us it's about caring about the victims or it's about the Epstein class or something like that. So just be honest about it, Massey. If you've got a problem with some other, just say it. Don't just make it about victims in perpetuity so we can have a real conversation about this that you obviously don't care about, in my opinion. Rub some dirt on it. Just a reminder to look up from the online doom on March 3rd. We're going to have a full lunar eclipse. Man, shout out. That's Whirlpool Galaxy joining us. Thank you, Rub some dirt on it. March 3rd. Programmed. But we could use another reminder when that day comes. Hopefully you can do that for us. Whirlpool Galaxy. All right, my friends, it's been a beautiful stream. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Monday. Happy President's Day. One more there's a treadmill. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what that was. Treadmill. Yeah, here's the treadmill. Oh, I get it. It's my treadmill that I don't use where I put my telescope, my jujitsu gi, my home garden, and all the other things that we do here. Very funny. Very funny. Happy anniversary, John. John had his 29th anniversary today with his lovely wife. She stuck with him for 29 years, which is a pretty impressive feat. Amazing. Thank you, John, for that. Hey, that's right. I am Blood Moon. I forgot about my nickname. Blood Moon. That's right. You guys saw my Blood Moon photo. That's why I don't need to do astronomy anymore, because I already completed it. I already am now known as Blood Moon because I got a very nice picture of the Blood Moon. Good stuff. All right, so my friends, it's been beautiful. I don't think we have any comments on X because apparently it's not working over there. Let me confirm. Like, it says we're live, but you can't see it. So we have no comments. Shout out to our friends on X if you're watching us over there. You can still go over there and check it out. Apparently, you just click this button. See if anybody's live over there. No one's live. All right. Nobody wants to watch us on X. That's all right. Hey, what's going on? Trump's sword. Wow, I'm 2 hours late from the start of the stream. We'll watch the first part after posting. Man, good to see you. Trump's sword in the house. 8 months as a membo. Great to have you, Trump's sword in the house. And one more month, we'll have a full baby here. We're looking forward to it. But my friends, it's been a very beautiful stream. Thank you once again for being here and supporting our work and holding the line on this stuff with us. We'll, of course, be back tomorrow to get into it again. Should have a lot more activity tomorrow since the government opens back up. And it'll be a good one. Rubos left a prayer. Man, shout out. We love the Rubos prayers. A prayer for Trump up in the house, courtesy of the Rubos. Let's see what we got. We'll close it out. The Rubos. Man, this is a good one. All right, here we go. This is about exposure of betrayal and false coverings. Now, by divine authority, we call for full exposure. Expose every plot, every hidden agenda, every wolf in sheep's clothing, every Judas, every false friend, and every false narrative. Expose all infiltrators, manipulators, deceivers, and traitors. Expose every betrayer in President Trump's midst, whether it be members of Congress, the Senate, the judiciary, the VP, or anyone in the cabinet or the DOJ. I decree over them all. Oh, full of all deceit and all fraud, you son of the devil, you enemy of all righteousness, will you not cease perverting the straight ways of the Lord? And now, indeed, the hand of the Lord is upon you, and you shall be blind, not seeing the sun for a time. Let masks fall. Let evil alliances fracture. Let covert plans collapse before they start. What was meant for harm is intercepted and turned for his good. What was whispered in darkness is brought into the light. What was designed to ensnare becomes evidence against its architects. Amen to that from the Rubos. Man, look at that photo too. Shout out. The Knight of Righteousness and Light joins us today. Thank you, Rubos, for the prayer, my friends. Shout out to Donald and Cheryl and Rubo over at rubosaltshop.com. Great prayers and great salt. My friends, it's been a beautiful stream. Thank you for joining us on this lovely Monday and for being here. Yeah, this is basically how I looked when I took that photo of the blood moon. Basically like this dude right here. Although that dude's proportions look a little bit off, but I was pretty excited about it. I could not believe I got that photo. I'm still excited about it. All right, my friends, it's been a beautiful day. Thank you for joining us. Special Sav, Londo, what's up, Rubos? Baby Lewis joining us on Locals. We got 22 Dragon in the house. What's up, Quell? NY. Yeah, Massey's wife died. He remarried. Good to see you, John McGarvey. Happy anniversary, Chubby Stubby. What a lovely day it is. Our friends on Rumble. We got Liberty in the house. Jody, what's up? Worm Nerd, good to see you. Neuro D, modding the fort down for us. King of Biltongs over there. Badass Dude, what's up? Says favorite chat. Me too. Good to see you, Badass Dude. Tammy, M.A. AG's in the house. What's up, AG? Thank you for being a membo, AG. Che Rudd, what's up? Trud in the house. Delay is obvious. Very nice to see you. Mama Lynn, what's going on? It's a lovely day. And of course, great to see Code Red, Lenny Malley. What's up, April Generic? CDW Cauldron is here. Jamma Picks, Marlene. What's up, Doan? Kathryn Brandon, nice to see you. Ken Kraus. What a lovely day. Samantha Richardson, Jeffrey Einstein, and Carino all joining us. It's been a beautiful stream, my friends. Thank you for joining. Thanks for subscribing and liking the video. If you haven't already done that, we'd appreciate it very much. Otherwise, we'll leave it here on the day. Big shout outs to our mods and meme smiths modding the fort down for us. Thank you, Muffin Rando. Thank you, Donut Mind Me, John McGarvey in the house. K Bean and Carrie B. We got Neuro D, Janek, Dog Digger, Geegum Geegum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda modding the fort down for us, keeping things nice and orderly around here. But it's been a beautiful stream, my friends. I hope your rest is beautiful tonight as well. You have the sweetest and most peaceful and pleasant dreams you can possibly imagine. You rest well, and you come back here tomorrow because we will be back here. And in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care.